Councilman, and independent candidate Teddian Jackson, a local business owner. Tonight we'll discuss a variety of topics and how they might impact not only the next 4 years for the winning candidate, but ultimately how they'll impact the residents of Hobart. The winner of this race will take over as mayor of Hobart, as outgoing Mayor Brian Snedecor decided to not seek re-election after 4 terms as mayor. Early voting begins October 11th. Voting registration ends October 10th. Early voting continues until November 6th at noon. If you need to register to vote, members of the League of Women Voters of the Calumet area can assist you tonight. Tonight's debate is made possible by the League of Women Voters of the Calumet area, the Legacy Foundation, Rise NWI, and Lakeshore Public Media 89.1 FM. I'm Tom Maloney, tonight's moderator. This debate is being live streamed tonight on Facebook and will be broadcast on Tuesday, September 26th at 7 p.m. on Lakeshore Public Media 89.1 FM. There will also be a repeat broadcast on Tuesday, November 7th, Election Day. There you can also tune in to find out how this race fares, along with dozens of others across Lake, Porter, and LaPorte counties on Lakeshore Public Media. All right, that's enough of the shameless promotions, I promise. For tonight's debate, we encourage the audience to ask questions. There are note cards that you can fill out, and we'll do our best to get to all of those questions and or topics that several questions might address. I ask that you hold your applause until the end of the debate following the closing statements from each candidate. We also ask that if you do write a question, make sure it applies to both candidates. The rules for tonight's debate are as follows. Candidates have 60 seconds for their opening and closing remarks. Each candidate will also have 60 seconds to answer each question during the debate. Rebuttals are not permitted, but candidates can use their time to answer or rebuttal from a previous question. There is no saving of time. Therefore, if a candidate does not use all 60 seconds, that time is not permitted to be used by the candidate again. Before tonight's debate, the candidates drew numbers to decide who would go first with their opening statement and who would go first for their closing statement. With that, Teddy has 60 seconds for his opening statement, followed by Josh. Josh will then answer the first question first. Teddy, you have 60 seconds for your opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening. First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. Also like to thank the Legacy Foundation, Lakeshore Public Media, First Unitarian Church, my fellow candidate, our wives, families, and friends for supporting us, and yes, the people of Hobart. It is true, I'm not from Hobart. I'm not a brickie. I chose Hobart. Everything that's associated with me and Hobart was a choice, a conscious decision. I chose to live here. I chose to get involved with this community during my first week here. Wherever there was a void or a need, I chose to step up if I thought I could fill it. I chose to volunteer. I chose to invest. And it's for this reason why, once again, I've chosen to step up to serve. Thank you.
Please hold your applause until the end of the debate. Josh, you have 60 seconds.
I'd first like to thank the League of Women Voters, Rise NWI, the Unitarian Church, Lakeshore Public Radio, Tom Maloney, yourself, Mr. Teddian Jackson, and all of you, Hobart. When I decided to run for mayor, I drew on my memories and experiences as a child. I remember going down to Paul's place and getting the famous bean soup. I remember Sandy O'Brien taking me on the prairie back in behind George Earl. I drew on those memories, and one of the things that came to me was the generations of Hobart that live here. I wanted to continue those generations on and on and on. And the only way we do that is if we invest in our community and we make sure that people feel like they've been heard. Make sure that nobody outgrows Hobart. Make sure that everyone has a seat at the table. And with that, we will be able to continue the generations and generations and generations that make this place so special.
Thank you, Josh. I'll enforce the no applause rule. Just a heads up on that one. You can clap for me, though, if you want. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, answering first for tonight's debate is Josh. Through the last few years, we've seen and heard many politicians across the country deny the results of their local elections. Will you accept the results of this election as decided on by Hobart voters?
Absolutely, 100%. I will accept the results of this debate, and I'll take it a step further and say that I trust the democratic process. I trust the people that are in charge of the democratic process and the voting, and I accept all races and the election as they stand.
Thank you. Teddy, 60 seconds.
100% yes. And thankfully, I don't think that's an issue in our city. I think we all respect and exercise our rights fully in the democratic process. And yes, I would 100% accept the results overall.
All right, Teddy. If elected mayor, what is your strategic plan?
My strategic plan, first and foremost, we have to have a given system. We have to know the given steps to undertake any task at hand, whether it's for a residential project or for opening a given business. There has to be a given linear projection path. And I think with that in place, we can realize even greater results overall.
Thank you. Josh, 60 seconds.
My strategic plan starts from the asset management side. We have to understand that asset management includes roads, includes infrastructure, includes human capital. We have to understand first what we need so that we can draft a strategic plan. If we don't have any idea where we're going, we'll never get there. So what we need to do from an asset management standpoint is understand what those benchmarks are. Does a fire truck need to be replaced? What year is that going to be replaced? So we can draft our strategic plan that fits those needs, along with some of the initiatives that we want to do as the mayor, if elected. We have to draft a strategic plan that lines up with our asset management. One of the things that we do in my personal life and in business is we have to identify replacement and put us on the path to replacing those things, and that comes from understanding the asset management side and then drafting a strategic plan to match those asset management.
Thank you, Josh. The unemployment rate for Hobart sits at about 5.5%. The average annual income is about $46,000 annually. 34% of Hobart students have free or reduced lunch costs. As mayor, what would you do to help bring more high-paying jobs to the city?
I come from a single mom. I was on free and reduced lunch, and I stand here today before all of you. I know what it's like to struggle. It will be a mission of mine to make sure that we bring high-paying jobs. One of the things that we have to do is invest in infrastructure. We got to go out and market the city as a true destination place for developers. One of the things that I plan on doing if elected is being proactive in our development, going out and finding the right developer for the right spot in the right location at the right time. Those things are critical to the city and the high-paying jobs. We've done a tremendous job over the last 8 years of bringing in development and bringing in high-paying jobs. It's incumbent upon us or whoever's elected next to go out and be proactive and make sure that those jobs are here in our city and they stay here.
Thank you. Teddy, you have 60 seconds.
Yes. I am fully aware of where our unemployment rate is. As a matter of fact, it's significantly lower than where it was 70 years ago. And it was for that reason why I stood up, stepped forward, and decided to invest in our city, because the unemployment rate was running rampant. Thankfully, I can say the investments that I've made, along with other small businesses, have significantly reduced our unemployment rate. With that being said, we still have a long way to go. How can we get there? We have to ensure that we are open and welcoming to all forms of business, whether it's from our local residents or from outsiders. And that has to be a core to what we do overall. Every bit of business counts, small, medium, and large businesses.
Thank you. Don't they know that we're having a debate? Trains running through?
Yeah.
Friday night football.
So we've got a couple questions already from the audience on this topic. The rezoning of 61st and Colorado. One question, what is your position on the rezone and why? And then the other question, considering the rezone to industrial is one of the biggest election issues, what would you do if elected to change the future land use map in the area of 61st and Colorado? Teddy, you'll answer first.
One of my core platform pillars is consensus-based governance. And that simply means government should not forget by whom and why they are placed there. We aren't a kingdom. We're elected officials, if I were to be. With that being said, we have to know what it is that the people desire for their community overall. When I first moved to Hobart, the main topic was no prison. The people made it clear they didn't want a prison in their community. Maybe the officials didn't like it, but that's what the people asked. For this no rezone project, the people are saying vehemently that we don't want this project in our community also. I think if we had gone about it in a different manner, we could have been in a different place. I think if we had brought the people to the table from the very get-go, the results could have been different on either side.
Thank you. Josh, 60 seconds.
I'll answer the question direct and straight to the point. I'm the only mayoral candidate that voted against the rezone, and I stand by that. I will continue to fight for the people of Hobart. I will continue to be a voice for them, as I always have been. I will continue to listen to you guys and be easily accessible via, I was one of the first candidates that put the agenda online. I answer direct messages. I'll answer the question specifically. I adamantly oppose the rezone. I voted against it, and my record stands.
Thank you. Please, no applause. We've had a couple of questions come in. Golf carts. Seems to be a touching issue, or touchy issue, I suppose. Answering first for this question is going to be Josh. Somebody says, please, sir, don't take my UTV. Somebody else says, which one of you wants to ban golf carts? Any restrictions? We'll get to all of that. So there was a candidate who was apparently trying to ban golf carts and UTVs. Is that correct? Am I reading the handwriting correctly on that one? ATVs. Okay, well. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought, but all right. I like the class participation. Thank you.
It's a good group here.
So, Josh, you'll be answering first. The restriction and or banning of golf carts, do you support it? If so, why? And would you be willing to compensate owners for the lost property? You have 60 seconds.
Well, I was one of the champions of the golf cart ordinance, so I can't go back on that. But the reason why we allowed the golf carts was to kind of spur the downtown a little bit. People, for whatever reason, get in their golf carts and they drive to a destination. I've seen golf carts of 10, 15 together just going to Dairy Queen. They take up less parking spots. You can fit more on there. I do believe that we need more enforcement to make sure kids are not driving them, to make sure that the owners are following the rules. But I was a proponent of golf carts to kind of spur economic development downtown, to get people downtown. People enjoy them. People like to ride them. They get on there. They cruise around their neighborhoods. I understand that there is a safety factor. So what I would like to see is the golf cart staying, just more enforcement and making sure that the rules are abided by.
Thank you. Teddy, you have 60 seconds.
I know it's a debate, but I mirror Councilman Huddlestun's stance. The golf cart has been tremendously impactful on my business as a downtown business. There are many people in this very room who form a team of people who get together in their golf carts and patronize my business. So I'm a huge proponent for the use of golf carts. Additionally, from the campaign side, my campaign is known for having the Jackson carts, basically, with the big Jackson logos on them. And that's how we get around and go from door to door. So I think it's clear that neither of the candidates up here is against the use of golf carts.
Thank you. Answering first on this next question will be Teddian. This question touches more on open communication with regards to citizens and the process of governing. If elected as mayor, how will you ensure the public is informed with adequate time regarding issues, as they said, as a recent budget issue that was voted on with a public hearing, but the budget was not audible to the public? How will you ensure that this does not happen again? So I'll ask you in a broader sense,
Yes.
How will you ensure that open communication happens between you and the constituents?
Yes, there is no question. Local government has to be open. Local government has to be accessible. Local government has to be proactive in getting the information out to the people. I can speak from personal experience. Currently, it is very difficult to get any bit of information out. Even through the apparel process, the Access to Public Records Act, which is a state law. Even through that process, it can take up to a month or even longer to get any bit of information out. And that is a huge no-no. So with that being said, we have to have some system, maybe it's a communications director or something within that manner, to make sure the people have open access to any bit of government information. The data that's within City Hall is the people's business. It's not government's personal business. That's my stance on it.
Thank you. Josh, 60 seconds.
One of the things that I do as councilman and during the campaign is we do live Monday night videos where we open ourselves up to the public, we get vulnerable, and we let them know what's happening in the city. As a resident, I was a resident as well, and I understand your guys' pain. One of the things that people, they don't know what they don't know. So it's hard to go look for something if you don't know what you're looking for. So we provide the online platform, we provide the transparency and accountability to get that information for you guys so that you guys can start peeling back the layers of the onion, because if you just go to City Hall and ask for documentation, it's got to be a specific reason why, what documentation. But if we provide the avenue and the platform for you guys to understand what's going on, that allows you guys the opportunity and ability to go and ask for certain things. Because at the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know, and it's hard for you guys. You guys are busy in your lives to be involved with the political process as deep as your elected officials are.
Thank you. Answering first on this question will be Josh. This summer, Hobart residents have had to deal with construction projects, on construction projects, on construction projects. You get the point. What are your plans, if elected mayor, to ensure that the city's streets are usable for both motorists and pedestrians all year round?
The thing with construction is a lot of it is timing and funding. A lot of times the money has to be available for us to do projects. And we have a state road that runs through our city, which makes things even more challenging as they do their projects in addition to what we do. But one of the things that I think is important when it comes to road construction is just to kind of piggyback off of the last question, communication. Everybody wants to be informed and they want to know how to get around, what to do, what's coming up, what's closing down. So our administration, if elected, will be very, very vital for us to get that information to you guys. Look, construction projects are gonna happen. We have an old city, a very old city. We have wooden pipes in some of the grounds. We have to continue to invest in infrastructure so that this is a place where people wanna live. But it shouldn't be, it needs to be communicated to you guys, and we'll make sure that we do that.
Teddy, you have 60 seconds.
Yes, I know this firsthand on both fronts, as a resident, as most of us here, and as a business owner. Now, no one is or will complain about us improving our city. We understand that that requires construction. The manner in which we go about it, that's what's in question. Everything at once, that can be detrimental. And not just that, not being proactive by retrofitting the streets to which traffic is being diverted. So we have neighborhood streets that are 2 lanes with cars parked on either sides that have now become thoroughfare because traffic is being redirected there. We need to be proactive by knowing this so we can make the necessary adjustments that need to be made. So timing, project management, and other factors need to be a part of the overall structure. And one thing I mentioned in one of my campaign videos,
We're going to have to wrap it there. Thank you. 60 seconds. Teddy, you'll be answering first on this question. It's a bit of a three-parter. I'm going to try to combine into one for you. Several members of the audience this evening want to know about the revitalization plans for downtown Hobart. And I'll also tie in as well as the issues with downtown Hobart's parking. And will you also enforce the posted 2-hour parking limit? You have 60 seconds.
Again, revitalization, I understand that directly from a first-hand standpoint. Again, 7 years ago, I took on the burden of not just leaving my career in the corporate world, but I mortgaged my home and emptied my savings account so I could reinvest in our downtown. And the business plan that I wrote then, I submitted to the mayor, was that the hope would be that if I can do this properly, it could create a ripple effect and other businesses could follow suit. So yes, I do understand the need and how to go about revitalizing not just our downtown, but our city on a wider level. With that being said, there are lots of strings attached that make it a bit more difficult. There are barriers to entry that need to be removed, and we need to address those first. As far as parking is concerned, I too understand the burdens, again, as a business owner, but we aren't to the stage as of yet where we can attract a private investor to come and build a parking garage, which most people are asking for.
Thank you. Josh, 60 seconds.
I think my time on the council and the things that we've been able to accomplish in the downtown has paid tremendous dividends. I mean, we redid the lakefront. Through legislation, they opened up more riverfront licensing. We did the streetscape. We've done a tremendous job in investing in our downtown to revitalize it. Our programming, the Bricky Bowl, the revitalization of Bricky Bowl, all of those things are really bringing back our downtown. We're getting investment from a lot of different people and more coming down the pipe. I understand that parking is an issue, and one of my objectives is complete streets, getting connectivity from neighborhoods where the automobile is not the primary source of transportation, where people feel safe on the roads, on their bike, and walking. Those are the things that I want to do so that parking doesn't become the issue, where people are getting there by other modes of transportation. So once again, the revitalization that we've been able to accomplish as a council, and ultimately complete streets and connectivity.
Josh, you'll be answering first on this next question. Robinson Lake has seen an increase in drownings over the past few years. More recently, local firefighters collected funds to put a life ring and rope at the property. Robinson Lake is unguarded. Dive Team Commander Enrique Lopez states that the rescue team has had to respond 6 to 7 times over the past year to potential drownings. As mayor, what are your plans to improve the safety of swimmers at Robinson Lake as well as other public access points in water?
It's not the swimmers. It is the people on kayaks and boats that have a false sense of security that the shores are closer than they really are. I look at it and I think I could swim across it, but I'm not a very good swimmer, so I probably wouldn't make it. What we need to do is educate the public. We need to post signs. We need to be in go through an education piece with our fire department and their surrounding communities. We have a Lake George right downtown. We need to partner with organizations like the YMCA and the fire department to help people become better swimmers, learn boat safety, raft safety, and teach them how to navigate the waters. The Robinson Lake as a whole provides a lot of false security. It was the dig pit for I-65, so it goes down, it gets pretty deep. So we need to provide that resource to our residents and also people that are coming through education.
Thank you. Teddy, you have 60 seconds.
About 2 weeks ago, I was invited to a bench naming ceremony for a gentleman who was one of the Friends of Robinson Lake. He has since passed. I didn't know Robinson Lake in the manner in which he told me these stories, but he made it known to me that Robinson Lake was once a beach, per se. There were lifeguards, people were swimming, and it had that whole setup. I am not certain how or why we got away from that aspect, but possibly that could be a fix going forward, to look at it more as a recreational aspect from our local government. And I think we could then start putting more resources into Robinson Lake. But that's just an overall thought.
Thank you. Teddy, you'll be answering first on this question. So one member of the audience this evening wanted to know about supporting a developer that would bring in 55 and older residential housing. I'm going to tack that on to the question as well. Recently, Hobart residents have had to evacuate their residences due to contamination issues, and tenants at downtown historic building had to evacuate due to blight. What would you do if elected mayor to help bring more sustainable housing and development to Hobart?
Yes. I'll answer this from the standpoint as I am a real estate investor. I own apartment buildings, and so I understand the need for affordable housing for all types of diversity in housing. We are a market economy, and if the market asks for a certain type of housing, then we should, as a local government, allow the market to dictate that which it is asking for. Therefore, if the market is asking for 55 and older, and developers are willing to meet that supply, then we should do whatever we can to assist. I'm not sure if there's a second part that I'm missing.
It was specifically with regards to residents 55 and older in terms of housing for them.
I think I answered that piece.
Josh, you have 60 seconds.
We are market driven, but there's also proposed commercial development at 61st and Colorado, and the market says that an industrial park should be there, and I adamantly oppose it. We need to make sure that there's housing stock in the right locations, at the right time, at the right place. Just Carte Blanche saying that we should be open to the market, I agree on the surface, but we have to dig a little deeper than that. It's not just saying, hey, they could come here or they could come there. We've done a good job with our retirement communities. We've done a good job with Crestmore and Eagle Creek, and Steiner's looking to build some homes as well. One of my main objectives on the council was to get some higher end homes and increase our housing stock. But we can't just Carte Blanche say market-based. We got to make sure it's in the right location, at the right spot, at the right time.
Thank you. Josh, you'll be answering first on this next question. The City of Hobart received $6.3 million in ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funding, and has spent nearly $2 million. What are your plans, if elected mayor, for the remaining nearly $4.5 million?
Well, it'll be predicated on, we have a couple projects where the ARP funds should be allocated to. We have a really quick turnaround time for the use of the ARP funds. But one of the things that the ARP funds allows us to do is tourism. Okay, we're building a playground right next to the Hobart Pool with ARPA funds. We helped pay our employees during that critical time with ARPA funds, and they were greatly appreciative of it. One of the things that I think that we could do with ARPA funds is look for something for the senior citizens, because I feel like during COVID, they really had a tough time during that, and I know a lot of them are looking for a pickleball court. So one of the reasons, if the ARP funds are not allocated to the project, that we can extend where the Hobart Pool is and put some type of recreational use, volleyball courts, pickleball, so on and so forth.
Thank you. Really quick, we got an audience request to lower Teddy's mic because it's covering his face. Are we good on the mic level there, guys? You want me to lower it?
I was doing you a favor by covering this.
You got it? Okay, there we go. That doesn't count against his time, okay? All right. Teddy, you've got 60 seconds.
Yes. As far as those funds are concerned, there are many restrictions to which I am not 100% privy. And I get to understand that those rules are still evolving. Therefore, I can't pinpoint specific projects that I would put those funds towards, because they're not free for all. There are specific guidelines that goes with those funds. So from that standpoint, I can't give specific projects.
Okay, thank you. Teddy, you'll be answering first on this question. Several questions, actually, about County Line Road. Excuse me. The cough wasn't intentional, I promise. Please state your position on the widening of County Line Road with or without federal funding and or assistance.
I'll make it very clear. I would be against that. Reason being, when it comes to road and road safety, there are four main factors: cost, speed, cost, speed, safety, and volume, meaning volume of traffic. We could widen County Line Road I know people are mostly concerned about the fall time Orchard traffic, but we could inadvertently redirect other traffic that we did not intend to get in that area. And with so doing, we could compromise safety. This is a residential neighborhood. There are kids outside riding bikes and things of that given nature. So I would be against it. There are many communities that have gone with the widening process, and they're going through what they call now a road diet, meaning they're going back to where they were prior because of the safety issues.
Thank you. Josh, you have 60 seconds.
County Line Road is a main arterial, and it's been posed by NERC as a main connectivity point. It's not through a neighborhood, it's a main road. However, I disagree with the widening of County Line Road for these reasons. One, I don't think we should just cater to one business. I don't think that it should just be dictated on the volume of traffic for the Orchard. And the second one is the proximity to the houses on the north side of Route 6, or the south side of Route 6 by Cleveland Avenue. The reality is that when snowplows go through, they kick up salt and hit rocks. There was conversations of moving it to one side. There's a homestead there that's on a farmhouse homestead there that's on the historical preservation that can't be touched. I adamantly opposed it, and I was with the residents during that time, during the widening of the proposed widening of the project, and I agree that it should not be widened.
Thank you. Josh, you'll be answering first on this question. Maybe. Looking at Hobart Parks, it's going to be a two-parter. What are your priorities for Hobart Parks, and should park board members be elected?
So that's a great question. I currently sit on the park board as the council appointee, and I'm proud of the work that the park board has done. I'm proud of the executive director of the park board. We've enhanced a lot of projects. We did a lot of parks, but one of the main priorities from my standpoint in working with the parks is something to do with Festival Park and revitalization of that area. Do I think that park board members should be elected? I do not think they should be elected. I think that it's a bipartisan board for a reason. I think that there's council appointees, and there's also the ability for the mayor to appoint people there. So proud of the work we've done. We've increased 8 to 10 parks we redid throughout the city. If you guys see it over by the Hobart Pool, we've done an amazing job. We're going to continue to invest in our parks as a quality of life issue. And then ultimately, to answer your question, I do not believe they should be elected.
All right. Teddy, 60 seconds.
I would echo that sentiment. I strongly believe that our park department has done some tremendous work in the years that I've been a resident of Hobart. Should the park board be elected? I might understand why someone might ask that question. I think the park board has more power than people realize. The park board has power, if I may use that term, over a lot of funds and how those funds are utilized. But I don't think we need to go as far as to increase the bureaucratic process by having an elected park board. But with that being said, once again, I echo the councilman's sentiments that I strongly believe that our parks department has been doing a tremendous job overall.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a reminder for folks this evening, if you've got questions that you want to ask, please raise your hand. Members of the league will go ahead and pass out note cards to you as well as to the folks in the overflow room behind us. And again, please make questions out to both candidates. Another question from the audience. How would either candidate involve more young people in government and the process as part of a civics learning and appreciation? Teddy, you have 60 seconds.
Well, in my business, a key program that I've had for going on 5 years now, well, over 5 years, has been an apprenticeship program wherein I invite youth in and I train them throughout the trade process. And this process encapsulates not just the actual craft itself, but the business of what we do. At the end of that training program, which lasts about 2 years, our last apprentice just finished his 2-year program, there is a process where I connect them with a college advisor There's a little graduation ceremony. They get a certificate from a, how would you say, a reputable agency. In my case, it was the American Culinary Federation. I would mimic that likewise into a government platform and with other trades also. So I already have the blueprint that can be duplicated.
Thank you. Josh, 60 seconds.
Well, I can speak from experience. I was a young man elected to the city council 8 years ago. I was that beacon of hope. People looked at me. A lot of people in the community reached out to me. They said, Josh, how did you do it? What did you do? How did you get involved? I was the young person that kind of plowed that path forward for a lot of people. And since then, a lot of people have been reaching out to me. One of my initiatives you guys can find on my website is I'm gonna have a youth council, the mayor's youth council, where there's a elected group of people in the schools that meet with city staff on a regular basis, quarterly basis, and they're involved. We get to sit down and have those conversations with them. We get to hear what their feedback is. And when we're open and we're listening to them, they want to be involved in that process. They want to be part of this community. So one of our initiatives is we're going to start the Mayor's Youth Council, where we're going to invite those people into us and ultimately bring them in, and hopefully they stay.
Thank you. Josh, you'll be going first on this next question. This individual's really sick. Not in a health way, but we already talked about construction on the roadways. They now want construction on your sidewalks. I'll explain why. Trees planted decades ago, although not de-leaved, but aged, have severely damaged sidewalks. Where public safety is involved, are you willing to remove the aged trees and to replace the sidewalks so the public will feel safe walking in their neighborhoods?
Absolutely. If you go to my website again, under my initiatives, you'll hear this. We're going to allocate 10% of all exaction fees within the city through development is going to be used for sidewalk replacement. It's something that when I'm out knocking on doors, I'm hearing that issue. So 10% of the exaction fees, which comes from developers, we're going to take that money and we're going to earmark it for sidewalks alone. And over time, we're going to continue to rebuild our sidewalk inventory. Okay, I'm committed to that. That's one of my big things is connectivity. And I can't talk out both sides of my mouth and say that I don't want to replace sidewalks when I talk connectivity. But we're going to use 10% of the exaction fees back to replacing sidewalks across the city.
Thank you. Teddy, you have 60 seconds.
Yes, the campaign trail opens one's eyes even more so in terms of the state of some of our sidewalks. It's quite frequent that you will see WPA along some of these sidewalks. This is how old these sidewalks are. And some have held up, but the vast majority are in a great state of disrepair. In terms of where trees are concerned, I can speak from a personal standpoint because that's in front of my house also. So yes, if we really take this project seriously, it will have to be a comprehensive plan, wherein if we're going to remove trees, but we also have to put back trees also. And I think even more aggressive than what the councilman laid out earlier. But yes.
Thank you. Teddy, you'll have 60 seconds on this. A follow-up to that question. Discuss your plan to enhance the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, compliancy in Hobart.
I don't know if there is a particular local government stance on that. That is a federal statute, and it's either you are in compliance or you are not. And the current process, any new construction has to be ADA compliant. There is no gray area there. So I think that stands for itself. Now, there are areas that are so-called grandfathered in. If those areas are on public property, I can't think of one now, but if such an area exists, the government should hold itself to those standards and make those areas ADA accessible. That goes back into the sidewalk aspect of it, because there are sidewalks that aren't ADA accessible. There's a gentleman in my neighborhood who uses a motorized chair, and he can't use some of those sidewalks. So yes, it's either you are or you aren't. There's no gray area.
Josh, 60 seconds.
We've made tremendous strides from a city in terms of ADA compliant. We have an officer that that is in city staff that reviews ADA compliance. We'll continue that. In addition to that, we'll take it a step further. One of our initiatives is going to have an inclusion council. That's going to be made up of members of the public that have the opportunity to have input in development, that have opportunity to have input, because we want to connect with you guys and understand where we're weak at. I understand that we're not perfect. And I understand that we have a lot of areas to improve on. One of the things that we're going to do is that inclusion council that you guys can help us identify where we need to improve on from an ADA compliant, from an inclusion standpoint. You guys live it every day. You guys see it. It's in your community, and we want to hear it. So our inclusion council will help us better identify pain points and areas of improvement. And one thing I'll say is our new park over at the Hobart Pool is extremely ADA compliant, and we made it a point to make sure that it was that way.
Thank you. Josh, you'll be answering next on this question. The audience question is, what are your plans for the city-owned property on Duck Creek? And I'm going to expand that to also include other city-owned properties that have not yet been developed or are underdeveloped.
So it goes back to our strategic plan and asset management. What is the highest and best use for a property? Oftentimes people, when an idea gets started, it seems to be that it's ultimately going to happen. There's processes in place that stop things from happening, or people get in too deep and they realize, hey, this isn't a good idea. The particular property at Duck Creek is one of the most beautiful parcels of land in the entire city of Hobart. I would say if you haven't been there, go, but don't go. There's no trespassing signs on it. But it is a very beautiful piece of land. I would tell you guys that at first there was an idea of doing some type of mountain bike track, or multi-use path. But I will tell you that I adamantly oppose that now. That parcel is left alone. But one thing that did come out of that was there's a lot less traffic in there when that parcel was identified and conversations were had.
Thank you. Teddy, you have 60 seconds.
As far as Duck Creek is concerned, very straightforward. That should be hands-off in terms of deforestation or any plans of development. That is a protected area. I had the fortune of walking that area recently, and the beauty that exists, not just in the facade of it, but just the wildlife and the ecosystem. It is something to behold. And any impulsive plans that would have considered developing or things of that given nature, those would have been ill-advised. So I think we should maintain our natural beauty. So that's what my stance is on that particular property.
Teddy, you'll be answering first on this question. Would you use eminent domain to revitalize any part of Hobart?
Eminent domain, that's not something that people throw around. That's not a term that you throw around. That is a matter of last resort. If a particular property is needed for public good. And I hope that's not something that any government would use just haphazardly. So naturally, I'd have to say no, because that is the right answer to give. If there is something that comes up, it should be so unique wherein the public could see that. But off the top, no. That's something that you shouldn't use every given day. It's not something that we should discuss in every given meeting.
Thank you. Josh, 60 seconds.
Eminent domain is an extremely long process and an expensive one. I have 3 pillars on my platform: public safety, fiscal responsibility, and quality of life. And eminent domain, pillar number 1, public safety. I adamantly oppose eminent domain unless it's going to jeopardize the public safety of the constituents of the city of Hobart. At that point, it could be discussed, but there'll be opportunities for us if we're not in that situation right now, but I adamantly oppose it unless it jeopardizes public safety, in which point there may be need for such.
Thank you. Josh, you'll be answering first on this question. It's a bit of a two-parter here. I'm going to combine a couple of questions. Can Hobart get a quiet zone? And what, if any, ordinances in the city would you change?
That's a 60-second question. It's a long one. Look. We fought hard to make sure that areas in our city and our community are quiet. There's people that come from all over to come to Hobart for its peacefulness, for its natural areas, for its beauty. And I think it's incumbent upon any elected official to make sure that stays salvaged, that those people have that quiet zone in those quiet areas. And so I'll do everything I can to reduce noise. One of the initiatives, getting sound barriers on I-65. I was dropping my kid off at Ridgeview Y Care, and I could just hear the cars roaring. So we're going to work hard to reduce the noise pollution within our community. And then one of the questions was about which ordinance would I change. One of the ordinances that I would change, well, I don't think there's any off the top of my head that I would directly change today.
Okay. You got in just under the bell. Teddy, 60 seconds.
Quiet zone, I have one. Duck Creek. It's a beautiful area, and it's nice and quiet. But seriously, as far as ordinances are concerned, there is a plethora that I would change. Why? Not because I want to go around changing stuff, but there are ordinances that are outdated. We no longer use them, but there is no sunset clause in any of those. So they are still there. And if someone just so happens to want to pull that ordinance and use it, I'm going to say against you, they can so do. So we need to have an entire auditing process where we go through and look at the ordinances that are on the books currently and see which ones do we need and which ones are outdated, and go from that point forward. So not just one. I can't pinpoint one right now, but I can tell you, I can guarantee you, there are a number of ordinances that don't need to be there.
All right. This next one comes from the audience. Teddy, you'll be answering first on it. No one is addressing the environmental impact of 61st Colorado. What is your research on it, and what research have you done regarding this impact?
Well, I can tell you, just about a month ago, September 9th, if I'm not mistaken, I attended an environmental summit at IUN. About 2 weeks ago, I attended another environmental summit or conference at Festival Park. Beyond that, my team and I have done tremendous research trying to see how we could better utilize and or protect that area at 61st and Colorado. We look at the soil type there, and we see where it is good for growing grapes. Is that an option? We're not 100% sure, but it shows that we have taken those steps and looked into the various alternatives and spoken with the various professionals. So yes, I have taken tremendous steps to look at the environmental impact and the various alternatives as to what we can do with that parcel.
Thank you. Josh, 60 seconds.
Anytime you get federal funding for any type of project, there needs to be an environmental impact study done. We didn't get to that point to do an environmental impact study because we didn't have a project there. There is a pipe dream of having a type of winery there, but as my opponent alluded to, the market bears what the market bears, and to date we haven't had a winery come before us and present anything, because if that was the case, we'd be all drinking wine and eating grapes. So what the reality is that we haven't got to a point where there's been an environmental study done on the Route 61st in Colorado, but I stand strong by my conviction, my vote on the council that I adamantly oppose the development there or the rezone.
Thank you. Josh, you'll be answering first on this question, a bit of PTSD for residents of Hobart. When you become mayor, will you continue to represent the party/view that you currently hold/represent?
Absolutely. I can tell you right now, my voting record, I stand strong in it. I didn't switch parties, I didn't jump to the middle, and I didn't go to the other side. I stand strong in my conviction, I stand strong who I am, and I've always been that way. Sometimes I wear a little passion on my sleeve, but I am who I am. I will continue to stay as a party, but I will be a mayor for all. Everyone that comes, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Green Party, Independent, Libertarian, I will be your mayor because that's how I've always been. I got friends from all groups of it, but to answer your question, I didn't jump ship, I didn't jump to the middle or the other side. I stayed true to myself and who I am.
No applause. Teddy, 60 seconds.
Likewise, I am an independent person, an independent voter, and an independent candidate. And that's who I've always been, and that's where I will stay.
Short and to the point. Sorry. We'll pick right back up on some of the climate issues. If elected, what will you do in the city of Hobart to address climate change and its impact to residents here? Teddy, you have 60 seconds.
I'll be very straightforward. As a small community, a community of our size, I have looked into this deeply. I couldn't find a project that we could undertake and maintain by ourselves that could be of a great impact to the overall crises that we now face. With that being said, there are intimate and personal projects that we can undertake, such as, forgive me for saying again, Duck Creek, and ensuring that we don't desecrate these little gems that we do have. So from a vast, overreaching standpoint, I honestly don't think with our geographical footprint, there is a project that we could undertake that would be impactful.
Thank you. And that's my fault. I didn't put it on the class syllabus to turn off cell phones for the debate. I apologize. Josh, you have 60 seconds.
I 100% disagree. We've been a leader in clean energy in the city. We've transformed Lake County. We have CNG, certified natural gas. It might just not be us that can undertake a huge, massive impact, but collective impact is important. We're a leader. We've won awards for clean cities. We've been a staple. Mayor Snedecor in the back and us, we're getting awards for being that beacon, being that person that leads the charge so that people behind us follow. They see our example, they see what we're doing, and they follow behind. I will continue to fight for clean energy. I will continue to be a leader in this community. I will continue to be a leader in Lake County and throughout the state. That's what we're meant to do, is lead and lead by example so we can have a collective impact amongst the state and the nation and so on and so forth.
Thank you. Josh, you'll be answering first on this next question. Do you believe the Hobart Police Department needs to be reformed, and if so, why?
We have one of the best police departments in the state. Our crime rates continue to go down. They're leading the charge. We've equipped them with a lot of tools and a lot of things to make their job easier. There's always improvements for everything. I have a police badge on here. I got family that's in law enforcement. I understand that there's always areas to improve. One of the things that we can improve on is mental health. Get them resources. So I think we could do a better job of providing resources. Yes, I do think that there is opportunities for improvement for the way that we police from a community standpoint, but we have one of the best police forces in the state. I stand by it, and we'll continue to provide them with resources to make their jobs easier in the day-to-day lives of them, and ultimately that helps serve you guys a lot better.
Teddy, 60 seconds.
No disagreements there. I strongly agree with all the points the Councilman just made. Our police department is by far above all standards. It just so happened that last night I happened to have an encounter where a family friend was in just a not good state. And the mannerisms of the officers who came on scene and our EMT personnel, was just beyond measure. So yes, whatever we can do to continue to support our first responders, I will do whatever I can within my power, with the resources at my fingertips, to ensure that we support them to the hilt.
Thank you. Teddy, you'll be answering first on this next question, something from the audience via our Google form. Do you believe a police officer should be the one to enforce codes and ordinances throughout the city while also having numerous obligations to the police department itself? Keep in mind, over the last several years, it has been one officer to review complaints for violations and enforce them if necessary for the entire city while having obligations as an officer of the department.
That's a complex question. I do understand where that question is coming from. Code enforcement, is that a police matter? That is something where I think we would need to sit as a team with the police chief and other support personnel to see how we can best address that. It is for this reason why, as I pursue my graduate degree, my focus is on criminal justice, because I want to understand a bit more of the underlying issues and how we can better look at non-traditional ways to solve some of these what might appear to be simple or more complex issues. The same could be asked if a police officer is the right person to respond to a social issue, if someone is having a psychiatric episode. So these are issues that require a collective sitting down to get to the best answer.
Thank you. Josh, 60 seconds.
Make no mistake about it, I've already laid out how we're going to address code violations. I do not believe it needs to be a police officer. I don't believe it's a police matter. I think it's more of a civil matter. Now, obviously, there's opportunities when things escalate and it does become a police matter. We need people in the community, in the neighborhoods, working together as community members to work together to reach solutions, okay? Our goal is to have 5 part-time code enforcers that live in your community, that live in your neighborhoods. So they drive past, they have personal relationships with you. We want to remove the police from having any more potentially negative encounters. We want to turn it back over to the people that live in those communities so they can better address those issues and they can touch you on a personal level. That's not a police officer in uniform. It's your neighbor, it's your friend, it's your aunt, your uncle. That's our plan to address code enforcement.
All right, Josh, we've got 60 seconds on this question. In 2001, there was approximately 60 firefighters. The department currently has approximately 54 firefighters, not including administration. The city has grown substantially, but the fire department equipment and their facilities have decreased significantly. Besides the recent pay increase, what are your plans to improve the staffing, equipment, and facilities they are housed in that will support all of Hobart, even the northeast side, which is the home of the closed fire station?
I'm proudly endorsed by local 1641 Fire Union. They're out knocking on doors and supporting our campaign. They believe in us and they believe in our path. Back to my strategic plan about asset management, it comes from a human capital standpoint is too. If we can come out there and create a pathway to full staffing, and we'll match our strategic plan with it. I understand there's a lot of constraints with public service across the country. It's not just a Hobart issue, it's an issue across the country. A lot of people don't want to get into it. One of the things we had to do is make a pay increase to not lose anybody. And it wasn't try to save the day, it was other departments are going from volunteer to full paid time. And there's not enough applicants, so they're pulling from all of the current full-time fire departments. Our plan is to work alongside the police chief, our administration, from a strategic plan, asset management standpoint, development standpoint, to truly get to a full staff fire department.
Thank you. Teddy, 60 seconds.
I think the first thing we have to do is index our growth to our first responder personnel. The question started out with this analysis being done in 2001. I wasn't in Hobart then, but I think it's fair to say that Hobart has grown significantly since then. But we've seen that our numbers have gone down. We need to index our growth, whether it's via land use or residential or in terms of population, but we have to have a set standard, meaning if we go this much big, we have to add this amount of firefighters / police, etc. I think that's where we need to start.
Thank you. Answering first on this will be Teddy, and we will be getting nearer to the end of the debate this evening, so I want to remind audience members, please hold your applause until after both candidates' closing statements. I don't have to use my teacher voice again. Teddy, why are there 2 separate budgets for Hobart City and City of Hobart Corporation? There are separate budgets. It's on the Lake County budget for 23-24.
That's a good question. I recently finished a project wherein my group and myself sat with the clerk treasurer. And I will tell you, not just that question, but many questions that we had afterwards. There just weren't clear guidelines. And from a layman standpoint, which the average resident is, there needs to be a bit more for clarification. So what would I do to address that issue? We need a given budget narrative. A budget narrative is basically pages explaining what each line item on the given budget means. If it says equipment, we need an explanation. What is that equipment for? What is it about? And I think if we start there, we could have greater clarity on lots of these issues or questions where our budgets are concerned.
Josh, 60 seconds.
This is where experience in the next 4 years is truly going to make an impact. Understanding the budgets, understanding that there's more than just 2 budgets in the civil city of the city of Hobart. We have sanitary, we have park, we have our general fund. There's a lot of different budgets, and to go through line item by line item by line item and explain what each one does, we would need probably a staff of 40 or 50 people to communicate that with the public. Look, I'm all about transparency, and I'm all about answering any questions that you guys have. One of the things that we should do from a budgetary standpoint is we can hold open houses. I do live videos, but the budget is something that's critical. The next mayor is going to take over 30,000 people and 250 employees, and we should understand how those budgets work. And my experience on the council will prove dividends moving forward.
Thank you. I'm going to write that number down because our next three questions I'm going to lump into one here. Being mayor involves not only running the city, but also its 250 employees. I'm going to quote you on that one. Tell us your history in managing large teams, and what is your strength in leadership?
One of my strengths in leadership is not everyone needs a title to be a leader. It's easy to go on there and say you lead a large organization. It's easy to go on there and say that you've done all of these things. One thing that holds true to me is I've gotten buy-in from a lot of our city employees because I lead with my heart. I have leadership experience. I've managed gyms. I've managed a bank $150 million in assets. I was the retail banking coordinator. I have the experience to lead people. But it's not about leading one person or 100 people or thousands of people. It's how you lead and the person that you are and the buy-in that you have from those employees. We've been endorsed by the Teamsters, Local 140, Local 1641. We have a lot of buy-in from a lot of the employees, and they believe in our mission, they believe in our vision, they believe in our passion, and they believe that we're the best person for the job, regardless of how many people we've led or not led.
Teddy, you have 60 seconds.
I'll answer that, but I'll make it clear that in terms of a budget narrative, that is not something new or novel. Many local governments have that practice where you can go on their website and get a full explanation of all their budgets. In terms of leadership, it's a bit funny to really say this, but I am in my 20th year of leadership. I have led organizations and teams all over this world in various capacities. I have led upwards of 300 to 400 people. And yes, I do think that bit of experience does matter. I think it does matter. Understanding different demographics, different mindsets, I think that does matter. The next mayor will be in charge of department heads, will be in charge of managers. I have over a decade's worth of experience doing that in the corporate sector. And I think that will be integral for the next mayor.
Thank you. This next question, second to last, is my favorite question that I've ever gotten from an audience member. I got it last primary race for for Portage's Republican primary race. It's a fan favorite, trust me. Answering first on this question will be Teddy. What is something about the opposing candidate that would make him a good fit for mayor of Hobart?
For opposing candidate? Well, it's very simple. It's very simple. And Josh, please, if I'm speaking out of turn, please correct me. Josh and I sat down sometime last year, and I basically wrote him a love letter. True?
True.
And I outlined the many characteristics that I admire about him. Yeah? So it's not hard for me to really say that. Josh is a great person. And I separated Josh from Councilman Huddlestun because I wrote two letters. We only talk about the first one. The first one was towards Josh. So beyond this, and I know we have the campaign process, it can be challenging. But beyond this, we have a great relationship. Someone that I've never had any issues with prior to this process. Now, campaign process, you know how it all works. But I think he's a great person. He is a son of the soil. And if he is the next mayor, I think Hobart wins either way. So that's where I stand.
Josh, 60 seconds.
When I first met Teddian, I believe I was one of the first people in your restaurant,
yes,
my family and I.
Yes,
I met Teddian there, and he has one of those dynamite personalities. His smile lights up the room. He has a big heart. He's a genuine person. Everyone that gets to know him loves Teddian. heard along the campaign trail that Teddian's a very, very likable guy. I think Teddian has a lot of attributes that would help the city move forward. I think Teddian has a big heart. I think it's admirable, Teddian's where he's come from to where he's at today. And Teddian did invest in our community, and I think it's admirable of him. There's a lot of attributes that Teddian possesses that I think would serve the city well, but I think his heart and his dynamite personality and his smile.
I'll let that one slide. This is the final question of the evening, but please remember the candidates do have their closing statements after the final question. One more question. Josh, you'll be answering first. We've talked a lot tonight about the problems with Hobart and how you would work to solve them during your term as mayor. Now I want to know, what is the best thing about this city that makes you not only want to run for mayor, but to live here and raise your family here?
This one's personal. It's you, the people. I love this community with all my heart. Let's share a story. When I was in 4th grade, I started hanging around with the wrong crowd. It was members of this community that picked me up, put me back on my feet, and made sure that I was where I was supposed to be and doing what I was supposed to be doing. If there's anything that would make me want to run for mayor in this city, regardless of problems, budgetary concerns, it's you, all of you, the people that just... Honestly, I can't thank you guys enough. I'm forever in debt to you guys. It is the people of this city that made me want to call it home and stay here and ultimately decide to run for mayor. So to answer your question, Tom, it's the people.
Thank you. Teddy.
Yes, similar sentiment. Similar sentiment. My wife and I are both immigrants. We came from separate ends of this earth. We met many years back in South Bend, Indiana. But this is where we chose to call home. This is a home that both of us know. This is a home that all of our children know. Our kids have, I can't tell you how many grandpas and grandmas and uncles and aunties. We have Italian uncles, and Mexican grandpa, all types. It's the reality. There are people in this room who invited us to our first Thanksgiving dinner when we first moved here. And I would need like half an hour to express my gratitude for being able to have a home. I was a nomad. I traveled a whole lot for work. This is home. So it's beyond measure. I can't express my gratitude enough. It wasn't just by chance that I invested my whole life savings and everything here. There has to be an underlying reason, and it is because it is home.
Thank you. A reminder this evening, folks, I've still got stacks and stacks of questions that we weren't able to get to this evening. I recommend that you reach out to both candidates, whether in person this evening, via social media, or contacting their campaign offices to get your questions asked if they didn't get answered this evening. With that, Josh, you have 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Look, I alluded to it the last question. I love the people of the city. I've been a part of the council for the last 8 years, redevelopment authority before that. We've been a part of a lot of progress and a lot of amazing things that have transpired over the last 8 years. Bridges, investment, all of those things. I want to continue to expand upon that. I want to continue to make this place home and share those shared memories and create an opportunity where our kids and generations get to share those same memories. I think that my experience on the council will serve huge dividends as we move forward and we embark on uncharted waters. I think that the people of this community and the things and the goals and the aspirations that we have, our candidacy has, will really, truly move this city forward in the right direction. The future's now.
Thank you. Hold your applause. Teddy, 60 seconds.
Everyone, I want us to take a few seconds and just take in what happened here tonight. We have seen how elections and campaigns should not be, and we've seen tonight. And I think that's an testament to the community that we are. My hope is that with my experience, not just professional but life experience, I could add further value, not start, but continue on work that I've already done, work that we have already done. I have put myself forth on numerous occasions to be used for the betterment of our community. It wasn't about self first, it was about community first. And it is in that same regard why I stand in front of you today, willing, ready, and able to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night. What's up? Oh yeah, wait, don't forget, early voting. Early voting begins on October 11th. Voter registration ends October 10th. You can find more information at vote411.org.